When expert human explorer Thomas Freeman crashed on a wild alien world, he thought things couldn't get much worse. Then the aliens attacked. Primitive, vicious, barely sapient, the feral betazoids saw the lone human as nothing but prey. And in their toxic atmosphere, surrounded by deadly beasts, maybe they were right. But Thomas Freeman wasn't about to just lay down and die on this hellhole of a planet. He dragged himself into his wrecked ship for shelter, forcing the crumpled airlock closed against the venomous air. The emergency power flickered precariously. Freeman hastily took stock, some rations, a med kit, survival gear, a busted comms array. No way to call for help. And this far out on the fringe, light years from any human outpost, no one would come looking anytime soon. He was on his own. Days crawled by in a frantic bid for survival. The ship's recyclers chugged along, scrubbing the air and water clean, but food was limited. Freeman knew he had to venture out to forage on this alien world, ready or not. Slipping into his environment suit, he cracked the hatch. Right into a horde of ravenous predators. The beasts were on him instantly, all fangs and claws and raw hunger. Freeman scrambled back, barely getting the door shut in time. He slumped against the wall. His suit was torn, the faceplate cracked. Blood oozed down his leg. This was bad. Really bad. Stuck alone on an alien world, a year from any help, supplies dwindling, and the wildlife hell-bent on eating him. The pain in his leg was making it hard to think. Suddenly, a ruckus erupted outside. Roars, yelps, the meaty thunk of weapons on flesh. Then silence. Freeman inched to the window, peering out. To see a betazoid standing in a circle of alien carnage, clutching a primitive spear. It looked young, barely more than a juvenile. It was trembling, clearly terrified, but it had took on a whole pack. And won. Maybe, just maybe, Freeman had found an unlikely ally. And he would need one if he was going to survive and get off this world. If he could just establish communication, earn its trust. But not now. The leg wound demanded attention first. Freeman watched the young betazoid drag away a predator corpse nearly as big as it was, turning back only once to eye the strange creature in the even stranger metal cave. Then it was gone, and Freeman was alone again. He set to work patching himself up, mind racing. This planet held many secrets, that much was clear. The betazoids, uncontacted, never exposed to technology or the greater galaxy. The very environment, harsh and deadly. And based on orbital scans, hints of something more. Something ancient, buried, waiting. The human explorer gritted his teeth as he worked. Only one thing was certain, the clock was ticking. He had to unravel this world's mysteries, and fast. Find food, water, shelter, gain allies, and above all, find a way off this rock. Before it killed him, Freeman's leg had barely healed when the village erupted into chaos. The chieftain, a hulking brute with a jagged scar across his snout, stormed into Freeman's hut with a contingent of warriors. "Leave now, Skyfaller," the chief snarled in broken English, "or face the spears of the Bactor tribe." Freeman glanced at Wren, who hovered anxiously nearby. In the weeks since the young betazoid had saved him from the wildlife, the two had made real progress, deciphering the ancient ruins that dotted the planet. Freeman couldn't abandon that now, or his only ally. "I'm not going anywhere," Freeman said, standing to face the chief. "Wren and I still have work to do." The chief's eyes narrowed. He barked a command in the guttural betazoid language, and the warriors raised their weapons. Freeman barely had time to grab his makeshift plasma cutter before they charged. Laser fire flashed as Freeman retreated deeper into the hut, upturning tables for cover. The betazoids fell back, wary of the technology, but their superior numbers emboldened them. They began hurling rocks and spears, trying to overwhelm the humans' defenses. Freeman ducked and wove, his injured leg screaming as primitive weapons shattered around him. He managed to wire the power cell from his environment suit into a stunning trap, dropping the first wave of attackers into convulsing heaps. But more betazoids poured in, heedless of their fallen tribemates. Just as a spear punched through Freeman's barricade, inches from his face, Ren's voice rose above the fray. The young Betazoid pushed through the mob to stand between Freeman and the warriors, shouting in the native tongue. The attackers fell back, confused. Ren was no warrior, barely considered an adult by the tribe. To see him facing down hardened hunters shocked them. The chief bellowed at Ren, gesturing angrily at Freeman. Ren shouted back, his voice cracking with emotion. Freeman caught snippets as his translator struggled to keep up. Can help us. More than this. You see that Some of the Betazoids lowered their spears, looking uncertainly between Ren and their leader. Freeman realized Ren was appealing to the changes he'd already made. The water filtration system, the improved hunting techniques, the basic medicines that reduced infant mortality. The chieftain saw his control slipping. With a roar, he backhanded Ren viciously, sending the smaller Betazoid crashing into the dirt. What followed was a blur of violence. The chief leapt on Ren, pummeling him with huge fists. Ren fought back savagely, biting and gouging. The tribe watched in stunned silence as the two grappled. Freeman, heedless of his own injuries, waded into the fray. The chief was bigger and stronger, but Freeman had trained in hand-to-hand combat. A series of precise strikes to nerve clusters sent the huge Betazoid reeling. Ren pressed the advantage, sinking his teeth into the chief's throat. The larger male thrashed, then went still. Ren released his grip and rose, blood dripping from his maw. No one challenged him as he limped to Freeman's side. "The human is mine." Ren panted in English. He switched to Betazoid and spoke more. Freeman understood. Ren was claiming Freeman as his own, making him untouchable. Most of the tribe acquiesced, awed by Ren's feat. Several still loyal to the old chief slipped away, melding into the alien jungle. They would be back, Freeman knew. But for now, a new alliance was forged. In the days that followed, Ren and Freeman planned their next moves. With Ren as the new chieftain, they could mount expeditions to other ruin sites. The secrets of the Betazoid's ancient past called to Freeman. Something had brought the aliens to the stars before, and could again. But time was short. The old chief's followers lurked in the wilds, and the planet itself seemed determined to kill them. As Freeman pored over alien texts and Ren rallied supplies, one thought burned in the human's mind. Somewhere in these ruins was the key to their survival and their future. Thomas Freeman wiped the sweat from his brow as he hacked through the dense jungle foliage. Beside him, Ren moved with fluid grace, his keen senses alert for any signs of danger. They had been trekking for days, following faint energy readings on Thomas's cobbled-together scanner. "There," Thomas said, pointing ahead. Through a gap in the trees, a crumbling stone structure loomed. As they approached, Thomas ran his hand along the vine-covered walls. His fingers traced grooves that were too precise to be natural. "Look at this, Ren. These aren't just rocks. There's technology integrated into the stonework." Ren cocked his head, studying the unfamiliar runes. "The markings speak of power, great power flowing through the earth." They spent hours clearing away vegetation and debris. Thomas's heart raced as he uncovered conduits and strange crystalline nodes. This was far beyond anything he'd expected to find. "We need to get inside," he said. It took days of backbreaking work to clear a path. Thomas's muscles screamed in protest, but the excitement of discovery drove him on. Finally, they breached the main chamber. Thomas's jaw dropped. Banks of dusty consoles lined the walls, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns. At the center stood a towering pillar covered in pulsing lights. "It's some kind of power core," Thomas breathed. "But how do we activate it?" He spent days tinkering, jury-rigging connections between the alien tech and salvaged parts from his ship. Ren watched in fascination, peppering him with questions. Finally, Thomas made the last connection. The pillar hummed to life, energy crackling along its length. Lights flickered on throughout the complex, illuminating vast chambers they hadn't even known existed. "We did it!" Thomas whooped, clapping Ren on the back. Their elation was short-lived. As they explored the newly activated facility, they stumbled upon a control room. Thomas's fingers flew over the alien keyboard, bringing systems online. A garbled transmission filled the air. The view screens flickered to life, showing fragmented images that made Thomas's breath catch in his throat. He saw sleek spacecraft soaring between gleaming cities, betazoids in elaborate robes creating stunning works of art, children learning in high-tech classrooms. This was your people, Thomas said softly. Ren stared, transfixed. How? How did we fall so far? The images shifted. Thomas watched in horror as disaster struck. Hurricanes ravaged cities, crops withered in parched fields, rioting mobs fought over dwindling resources. The final images showed haggard survivors huddled in caves, their technology in ruins around them. Ren sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Thomas laid a comforting hand on his shoulder. This is just the beginning, he said. If we can access more sites like this, we might be able to piece together what happened, and how to fix it. Perseverance hardened Ren's features. He nodded resolutely. But their work did not go unnoticed. As they ventured to other ruins, they found themselves dogged by hostile betazoids. Spears would whistle past their heads as they worked. Supply caches were ransacked. It came to a head when raiders struck the village itself. Thomas knew they had to take action. He gathered Ren's best warriors, outlining a plan to strike at the rebels' hidden camp. The battle was fierce and bloody. Thomas took a spear to the leg, but fought on. His quick thinking and alien weapons turned the tide. When the dust settled, the rebels were scattered. Their leader had slipped away, but the immediate threat was neutralized. As Ren's people tended to the wounded, Thomas limped over to his friend. "We can't let this stop us," he said grimly. "There's too much at stake." Ren nodded, his eyes gleaming with newfound purpose. "We will reclaim our past," he said, "and forge a new future." Side by side, human and betazoid set out once more, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to unlock the planet's ancient secrets. Thomas and Ren trudged through the scorching desert, the sun beating down mercilessly. Sweat poured down Thomas's face, stinging his eyes as he squinted at the horizon. Ahead, heat shimmered off rusted metal structures jutting from red dunes like broken teeth. "There," Thomas panted, pointing. "That has to be it." Ren sniffed the air, his sensitive nose twitching. "I smell nothing, not even decay. This place is dead." They approached cautiously, climbing a dune to survey the ruins. What they saw took Thomas's breath away. A vast complex sprawled before them, half buried in sand. Domed buildings and toppled spires spoke of a once great facility. "Let's go," Thomas said, sliding down the dune. Hours passed as they dug through debris, searching for an entrance. Finally, Ren's claws scraped against metal. "Here!" Together, they heaved aside a fallen door, revealing a dark passage. Thomas flicked on his cobbled-together flashlight, illuminating dust-covered consoles. "If we can get power," Thomas muttered, already examining the systems. It took all of Thomas's engineering skill and some jury-rigged connections from his ship's parts, but finally, a low hum filled the air. Lights flickered to life, revealing banks of alien computers. "Yes!" Thomas exclaimed, fingers flying over unfamiliar keys. Data streams scrolled across screens faster than he could process. "This is incredible, Ren. Your ancestors, they were light years beyond Earth tech." As Thomas worked, holographic displays sprang to life around them. A figure materialized, an elderly betazoid female with intelligent eyes. "Greetings," she said in a lilting voice. "I am Para, chief researcher of Project Ethos." Thomas and Ren exchanged shocked glances. They listened, transfixed, as Para's logs unfolded the tragic story of the betazoid's fall. "The Ethos particle," Para's final recording said, her voice cracking with despair. "We thought it would save us. Instead, it doomed us all. Whoever finds this, you must stop the experiments, seal the rift, or everything will be lost. The hologram flickered out, leaving Thomas and Ren in stunned silence. By the stars, Ren whispered. My people, we did this to ourselves? Thomas gripped his friend's shoulder. We can fix this, Ren. We have to. A distant rumble made them both freeze. Thomas peered out a cracked window, his blood running cold at what he saw. Mechanical monstrosities lumbered across the dunes, weapons filled from metal carapaces. The AI defenses, Thomas hissed. They're active. Ren's fur stood on end. We must leave now. Not yet, Thomas said, furiously typing. I need to find the coordinates for the rift facility. Without that, we're doomed. The rumbling grew closer. A red light began flashing on a nearby console. Thomas, Ren urged. Almost got it. Thomas yanked a data crystal from the system just as an explosion rocked the building. They sprinted from the ruins, sand flying as energy blasts impacted around them. Thomas clutched the precious data to his chest as they ran, knowing their only hope lay in its contents. Behind them, the desert came alive with the sound of pursuing war machines. Thomas and Ren crouched behind a rusted hulk, their breath misting in the frigid air. Before them stretched a wasteland of twisted metal and sparking circuitry. Skeletal war machines prowled the landscape, their sensors sweeping for organic life. There, Thomas whispered, pointing to a half-buried structure jutting from a nearby hill. That's got to be the bunker. Ren's ears twitched. I hear patrols approaching. We must move quickly. They darted from cover to cover, hearts pounding. A hunter-killer drone buzzed overhead, its scanners probing the ground. Thomas and Ren pressed themselves into a crevice, barely breathing until the threat passed. Finally reaching the bunker, they pried open a corroded hatch and slipped inside. Stale air assaulted their nostrils as they descended into darkness. Thomas activated his cobbled-together scanner. This way, I'm picking up power signatures. They navigated twisting corridors lined with defunct equipment. Suddenly, a security drone lurched to life, its single red eye focusing on the intruders. Thomas yanked a wire from his scanner and jammed it into the drone's access port. The machine twitched, then collapsed. That was too close, Ren muttered. They pressed on, finally reaching a vast chamber filled with alien technology. Thomas's eyes widened as he took in banks of quantum computers and holographic displays. This is it, he breathed. The Ethos Research Lab. Thomas set to work, fingers flying over unfamiliar controls. Data streams flickered across screens as he interfaced his tech with the ancient systems. By the stars, he gasped. Ren, look at this. A holographic simulation materialized, showing a swirling vortex of energy collapsing in on itself. An ethos implosion, Thomas explained. It could seal the rift, save your world. Ren's face lit with hope, then fell. But how? We lack the resources to... An alarm blared, cutting him off. Thomas cursed, frantically working to bypass security protocols. We're out of time, he growled. This lab can't generate the power we need. There's only one place that can. Where? Ren demanded. Thomas met his friend's eyes grimly. The rift generator itself. We have to go to ground zero. They gathered what data they could and fled the bunker, emerging into chaos. AI war machines converged on their position, weapons primed. Run! Thomas shouted. They sprinted across the battlefield, energy blasts sizzling past. Thomas's mind raced, formulating a desperate plan. They'd need every resource, every ally they could muster. As they reached temporary safety, Thomas turned to Ren. We can't do this alone. It's time to rally your people for one last stand. Ren nodded, his eyes blazing with purpose. For our future, for our world. Together they set out to gather the tribes, knowing the true battle was yet to come.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.